Hello, and thank you everyone for joining us again. Today, Barb, we're going to have another juicy little conversation about support and help. And, we're kind of in the industry of, personal development and, just, I guess, opening up to the more, whatever titles people call the work that we love doing, but that is basically holding space for people. And this has come up a few times for me, and we were having a chat, and I think it fits right in. But this whole idea, and the truth that I know, which is only my own, is that people don't need help, they need love. And what I mean by that is that there's so many self-help things, this help, but a lot of the time you can find out that it's actually not so much about yourself. It's more about listening to what other people tell you to do. And like where that takes us when we do that, Barb, when we listen to somebody else or we watch somebody else and we go, oh, that must be the answer for me.
Yeah.
And so, you take it away. What's the feeling for you in that topic, in that kind of...
Well, we were talking about this just a little bit before we got started here, Andrea. And, that's one of my concerns of being considered this self-help, personal development area is, for me, this wasn't my story. But as I've realized that I'm in this, I don't know, group, whatever you want to call it, what I see sometimes is people have a formula for you. You come to them with whatever issue you have going on. A lot of times it's emotional or relationship or something like that. And they have a formula. And if you do this and this, you'll get this result. And what I see happen to people, and I think you've experienced it too, is that when you're given that formula and it doesn't work, well, then either they tell you you're doing something wrong or you tell yourself you're doing something wrong. And it's like self-sabotage, and we're beating ourselves up instead of expanding and opening up to the more. We find ourselves, it can almost become isolating. You withdraw, you went to get help, you're excited, somebody has something for you, and then it doesn't work out right. And then, oh, it must be me. And you withdraw. And it can become very isolating because there's shame, there's guilt, there's whatever. Because it didn't happen that way for them. So why is it happening that way for me?
Exactly. So it must be me.
Must be me.
Must be me.
Yeah.
And it's all that, we talk about this a lot too, Barb, and coming back to so much of it is about what we need to do. Oh, you need to do this, I need to do that. And, these are the steps, or these are the things that I need to do. And the reality I feel and what I see and what I know for myself is that when we are given a space to be, to just be with whatever stage we're at in the moment, and we are supported in the discomfort of that, without okay, well, now just go do this and it'll feel better, or it'll do better, you'll do better, or it'll be better. Instead of, there is so much power. This is what I know to be true for sure. For me, there is so much power in being able to just express and either talk out or feel through or contemplate whatever's going on, and just knowing that you are being held safe. And what I mean by safe is that you can feel the love, you can feel the safety and the love, and a lot of that safety is the non-judgment.
Yeah,
it's massive for me.
It's huge, Andrea. I think it is for everyone. And my mind is going in so many directions about what we can
Yeah.
talk about here. But yeah, that thing of just allowing yourself to be safe, like you're saying, to feel what you're feeling, to think what you're thinking, to wonder what you're wondering, to just talk about it. And what I find, what I do, and you do it too, is always turn people to their own soul, to go back in. I talk about asking the voice of love. The voice of love is your higher self, the the divinity of you, to go inside and ask questions. Is this true? What do I do about this? And it's just a conversation versus any judgment on yourself. And it's so freeing when people can get to that space of, it's okay to listen to my own soul. I know myself better than anyone else. I know what I need. I know how I need to be loved, allowed, whatever. Like, yes, you do. That is our message, Andrea. You do know yourself better than anyone else. Now, we're not saying nobody else has anything good to say. Of course, a lot of people do. Listen to it, but then go back, ask yourself, is that the right thing for me? Is
And I
what
think
they're saying.
that's a massive missing point. I love that you brought that up. As in, it's often not easy to be able to go within on your own, especially if you're in, quite a place of disharmony, and maybe you've been there for a while. It can be a really confronting thing to, I don't know my answers. Like, well, just tell me what I need to do. Like, we've been raised in communities, like in school, you just do what you're told, right? That we've learned that that's where the answers are. The answers lie in following somebody else's instructions and somebody else's, rules and stuff. So it can be a little confronting to recognize that we have the power to actually ask ourselves and follow our own knowing. But sometimes it's really important to maybe seek that support somewhere else, whether that's in a friend or a partner or, a coach or, there's lots of different people that we can lean on, and that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But that point, Barb, is that we don't have to take anything for gospel. People can offer up opinions like potato cakes. I don't even know if you have potato cakes over there. And Australia, I'm just going to divert here. Australia has a little bit of this stuff going on, because in Victoria, we call them potato cakes. And up here in the north, they call them potato scallops. There's all this like rivalry between what they're meant to be called. Sorry. Sorry.
I don't talk about potato cakes where I live, but maybe someplace.
Do you know what potato cakes are?
No.
So they're like a little flat patty of potato with batter, and they deep fry them. And it's like like hot chips, but it's a potato cake.
Oh.
Yeah. When you come out, you'll have to experience that.
All right. I'll report on potato cakes.
No, I've lost what I was saying, but I think it was about opinions being quite, there's lots of opinions, there's lots of judgments, there's lots of people that do feel like maybe they know the answer better than you, and that's okay. We live in the free world for the moment, so that's kind of what we're facing, is that is people's right to have an opinion, but we are allowed to actually find our place of center and go, does that feel right for me?
Yeah, and not just allowed, but that's where you're going to find your own peace. That's where you're going to find your own truth. That I love listening to other people's ideas and their stories and what has happened for them, because I don't know what I don't know.
Mm.
And so I love hearing stuff and sharing. And, the point of our conversation today is two-sided, in that just because something worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And if it worked for me and it's not working for you, doesn't mean you're doing something wrong.
Can you say that again and really slow? I really want that message I want you to say it again, if that's okay.
All right, I'll try to get it. The words. Just because something worked for me doesn't mean it'll work for you and it's the right thing for you. And just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. And, Andrew, we've talked about this before, that there was a time when I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis. I have some cousins who have it. And although I was kind of surprised at the diagnosis, I had the symptoms and stuff. And I started going down that journey. And then I started finding out the side effects of the medicine. I hadn't started taking any of it, but I started finding out side effects of it. And there was just a point, and this isn't really a big part of my story at all or anything, but there was a point where I said,
for you,
for me,
it's a big thing for others. Do you know what I mean? A message of this, of hope.
Yeah.
But keep going, sorry.
And I just decided that that wasn't going to be my story. And I quit going to the meetings, and I quit going to the doctor, and I just stopped everything. And I have no evidence of MS. As a matter of fact, I've never even been back to have anything checked. But I don't have that. Now, if you want to take the story a little farther, in my soul, one thing that I do think that journey was about for me, and I might start crying, is that I had a brain MRIs through that time. And so I knew what a brain MRI was supposed to look like. And then when Fred had his stroke, and at that moment, I was like, what? I was so caught off guard, and everything happened so quickly. And they said to me, let us show you his brain. And because I knew what it was supposed to look like, when I saw that, I really knew how bad his was. So, it's like, but my story to say that, well, you can just think MS away. Heck no. Would I recommend that as procedure for someone that has been diagnosed? No way. But that is my story. And it turned into more of a story for me. Is the moment I saw Fred's MRI, in my soul, I was like, I know what a normal MRI looks like, that I know that I can believe what they're telling me, because I was in such shock at that moment that they were saying he wasn't going to live and all this stuff. And I was just like turned upside down. So
I want to can I go down a path like with this? Sure. Is that okay?
As in, we're going down a lot of paths.
Yeah, we go down, and we've got someone joining us, but it's saying Facebook user. But thank you, beautiful person who's here listening.
Good morning. Yeah.
In terms of, I'm just going to divert and then we can come back. But as you share that story, there's a couple of things that come up for me. So number one, just like reiterating how just because that's somebody's journey doesn't necessarily mean we all have the same ability or the same story or whatever, that anybody can just think MS away. That's not what this message is, because quite honestly, I could sit here and go, why can't I be as good as Barb, because I've had a leg for 18 months that I'm in pain constantly, and I've tried this and I've tried that and I've tried this, and maybe I just have to think that I don't want this leg anymore and it'll go away. And that has the potential of me going, there's something wrong with me, because Barb could actually choose to not have MS, and she doesn't have it. So I mustn't be as good as her at this, because I can't or have not been able to do that yet.
Yeah, that's so important to me. Like, that could make me cry, to think that my story could be heard by someone else, that they're not doing something right. Oh, no. I would never want anyone to think that, or I would never want anyone to feel that.
And that's
we have to be careful about how we turn something that's happened to us into, it happened for me, it happened for you. Come on, get it together.
Because there's a very big difference between hope and the answer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very big difference.
Yeah.
Do stories like that offer people hope that things in their life might actually be able to turn around? But the minute we move into the energy of, well, it happened for me, it can happen for you. And we spoke about this, how I feel very similar about meeting my second husband on a different thing, something that's not physical, something that's emotional. There was a defining point in my life where I went, I matter and I am more than enough for someone to love me.
Mhm.
Well, in fact, it was probably a defining moment of I love me enough to decide how my life goes. That's more what it was. And there was an energy shift. I could feel it. I could feel the difference in me and the way that I looked out for people to come and share my life with. It just completely changed.
Mhm.
And then I met Andrew, and if people have followed me for long enough, they know the type of relationship that we have and how honestly grateful I am for him in my life. Why can't I see in the work that we do, Barb, there's lots of people that haven't been able to find that, or they are in relationships that are really dysfunctional.
Yeah, and our stories right here are almost switched because I've been a widow for 15 years and that hasn't happened for me.
And
And
so
yeah.
you could sit there and go, oh, what am I not doing right? What am I getting wrong? What's wrong with me? Like, that's the danger of believing that there is the answer out there,
Mhm.
like, and that comparison thing. And
Mhm.
what I wanted to sort of sidetrack onto, if you're okay with that, in terms of like, there's no mistakes, Barb, coming back to that, in terms of
Oh yeah.
like, what if your MS, the primary reason for that was for you to have the MRI so that you could recognize like what was coming. And
That resonates with my soul so much because I was in such shock that Fred had this stroke, that he was so helped. There was like, what? I just couldn't hardly believe it. But when I saw it, I couldn't deny it anymore. I mean, I don't go to doctors very often. We just weren't sick or anything like that. I didn't know much medically or anything. But the one thing I needed to know to let me know that they were telling me the truth, to say they're lying isn't true, but just the shock I was in
yeah,
was like unbelievable. The one thing I needed, and I had it. And so, yeah, that can go to there are no mistakes and everything works for our good. And I always believe that. So, yeah,
and that
we can go.
whole, that goes into what we were talking about before, though, in terms of it worked for them, it's not working for me, what's wrong with me? It's like when we can really open up to the fact that there is a much bigger picture at play, like if we're willing to do that,
Mhm.
then this whole, well, what am I doing wrong, basically can start to sort of almost fall away into like more of a curiosity or a contemplation of, well, I wonder why that didn't work out. Like, I wonder why that hasn't happened the way that I would like it to. Or it's really that shift of energy of the black and white, what's right, what's wrong, what am I meant to do, what am I not meant to do, into, what is the journey about, and what does take me to more to a place of peace than pain and stuff like that, like we've spoken about before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think you're not doing it right, what you're doing is beating yourself up. And Andrea, as much as other people say stuff to us and can hurt our feelings and stuff, sometimes we're our own worst.
I
The
don't even
thoughts.
think it's sometimes. I don't think it's sometimes. I think it's nearly all the time for me. And like, and don't want to put words in anyone's mouth or whatnot, but like I see it so often. It's the meaning that we make about situations that causes so much of our pain.
I agree with you actually, because if somebody calls me the wrong name, I don't think anything of it. If I believe what they tell me about something else, that's my choice to take that on, to believe it, to not go within and see if it's truth for me or not. And so you're right. It does come down to us of we're choosing to beat ourselves up over things that we don't need to. And if you just give yourself that space, like if you give a child a room to breathe, they can come back to center. And if we give ourselves permission to just be, to be sad, to be frustrated, to be angry, to be in the moment, and to some of this other stuff is just so external. It's really, and I think it's so dangerous.
And I think it's that what you were saying before in terms of that space, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of, well, we're talking about that a lot of the time people need love, not help. That is what creates the space for people to feel safe enough to be at peace or in their truth about how they're feeling. And for me at the moment, it is a physical thing. And I shared on a live the other day about, I really am in a place, Barb, where not having answers for why my leg is so uncomfortable. And it's not a massive, I can go down the whole, people have got it worse. It's not like I'm in a wheelchair. It's not like, but for me right here, right now, that's not overly helpful to go, it could be worse. I know it could be worse. I'm not silly. But that whole, I can feel it within me that I just want to be able to sit here and almost like cry and go, I'm really tired of trying to figure it out. Like, I'm just really tired. It's not like I think my life is totally crap or I'm ungrateful. Like, it's just this little space in this moment right now. And for somebody else, that might be that, they've had a fallout with a friend, or their workplace is like overwhelming, or like there's a million different reasons why we might find ourselves in a place that doesn't feel good. But having the safety, and for some people that might be just one conversation with someone that they feel isn't judging them or doesn't expect anything from them. For other people, it might take longer, and that's okay. But providing that safety of, I'm here to listen and to love. And occasionally there might be things that I can reflect back that make you question for you. That is some of the most powerful space holding anybody can do for anybody.
Yeah. To be seen, to be known, and to be loved.
Exactly.
Is such a desire.
Yeah. And Jill, I was having a bit of a chin wag with Jill yesterday and said the whole, but if someone called you Christine, you would go, oh, I'm Jill. And that's what you talk about a lot, isn't it? In terms of, if people say something to us that may be judgmental or, their opinion, whatever it is, doesn't, and it feels yucky. It's like, well, if they called you Christine, what would you do? You'd go, that's my name. So, you think I'm sarcastic and defensive? I'm actually quite loving and gentle. But anyway, that's fine.
Right.
We have a big I'm really sorry, we don't know who Facebook user is because of StreamYard, but anyhow, let's have a look. So I missed the part about MS, Barb. I was diagnosed slightly positive. For self-care.
I don't believe it at one bit. 4 years of no change or action, my brain MRI, and more loving myself, more tuning into myself. I'll know if something changes, but is not good for me to hear the doctor refer to me as a person with MS. Yeah. Like you said, we don't know who our Facebook user is there, but I totally agree that you went inside and you decided it wasn't good for you to hear that, to put that label on yourself. And so that changed things for you. I love it. Yeah.
And even that, how important that is, Barb, in terms of, even if the symptoms are there.
Kelly. Kelly, yeah, Kelly Peterson. Awesome, Kelly. I didn't know that about her.
So even if, even if there is a diagnosis, if we don't feel comfortable with being referred to in that way, even just that, like, let's
Right.
say she's diagnosed with MS and then the doctor says that you're a person with MS and that doesn't feel comfortable. Like, the power of saying, no, that's not how I want to be. That's not what I'm going to be referred as. Or even just those things it's so important to know what feels right. And that's, I guess, what we talk about, Barb, is this whole, if we're not being guided back in, that's a really important red flag for me.
Yes.
A really
Yeah.
important red flag.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Andrea. I always say that if somebody isn't helping you go inside and get your own answers, that is a red flag for me too. To somebody telling you, well, if you do this, if you do that, um, I might choose to do those things, but it's because I've gone within and see for myself what's good
And
for
that
me.
ties into what we've talked about before as well, is there's a difference between wanting and needing, in terms
Mm,
of, like, someone offering. There's a difference between, like, this is the information or this is what I believe, and you can choose to want to follow that, advice, want to follow that formula, want to follow whatever it is, and needing to. When there's that energy of this is what you need to do,
mhm.
that takes your choice and your uh, place of knowing, like your truth, it takes it out of the equation.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's, for me, I believe there's a lot of merit in instinct and intuition.
Mm,
And a lot of the time, we're not really guided there. Instinct is this knowing, this feeling of, is this right? Is this true for me?
mhm. And to even
Yeah.
have someone ask you that question, how does that feel for you? What to entertain a conversation, to when you start talking, you can it flows more. It's there's connection in a different way. But if when you're shut down, that's when it's you block
Mm.
yourself. And so yeah, it's a big deal, Andrea.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. It really is, because I think more than ever, people are looking for safety.
mhm,
Like, they're truly looking for safety to work out their way forward in whatever it is for them.
mhm,
And safety comes from love. You'll never convince me of anything else.
mm,
That and that unconditional love. Unconditional love is no judgment.
yeah. And, just for our listeners, if you're a person who's always asked other people's opinions and you've always listened to everyone else, this might take some time because the going inside and trusting your own voice can take time. And so we've talked about this before. Do it with little things. Do it with not life threatening things or
Mm,
big changes in life. Just do it with little things and start having these conversations with yourself. As I say, the voice of love, you say the universe. Start having those conversations, and there's delight in it, there's enjoyment in it, there's fun in it. And then when the major subjects come, you have developed this kind of conversation within you that can lead you, guide you. You know that voice, and you can listen to yourself. You give yourself permission to listen to yourself.
mm.
So
I love this. A doctor or person offering advice can point to where we need to apply more love, but the narrative belongs to me for my own health.
yes.
And that can apply to anything, can't it? Really? Like, we we can be told that this is the truth or this is the way in loads of different areas, loads of different places with loads of different people. But the one voice that we really need to learn to trust, and it can take some practice, like you said, Barb. Like, and that whole, there's nothing wrong with feeling like, because this happens too, feeling like, oh yeah, that's it. That's what I want to go and do. That's what feels right. And then you get to a point where you recognize it's not feeling right anymore, but oh, that's the choice that I made, so I have to stick it out. Can we be fluid enough to move and continue to check in? This felt right last week. It doesn't feel that right anymore. So what other options do I have on offer this week? Like, we don't have to set our feet in concrete. Oh, that's what I said last week, so I better say that again this week, even though I know that it doesn't feel right anymore. But that doesn't matter. I'll go through the suffering and the pain of going, I don't want to look like I stuffed this up. So
yeah.
And
we're not just talking about health here. Oh, I mean, we
Oh,
kind of got
no.
off on that, but we're talking about everything in life. Like, am I enough? Am I accepted? Am I known and seen and loved? And the biggest, the place you can get that from is yourself. And if you have a friend or you have somebody that will go there with you and let you go through it yourself versus this is what you have to do, or the steps that if you do this and this, you're going to get this, and if you don't get this, you've done this and this wrong. Like, no, take all that pressure off yourself. Breathe, be in the moment, and you know yourself better than anyone else. And so many of the questions that the everyday questions that we're wondering about, and it always comes down to our enoughness.
Yeah, and it's funny you were talking about doing the little things before, and for some reason, all I could think of was, maybe test it with wearing odd socks out of the house. How comfortable are you? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as in, for people that might be concerned about judgment and stuff like that, and you wanna test what it feels like to just go against that. I don't know. Now I'm just waffling. But the other thing that I wanted to come back to that I think is a really important, like, finishing message when you were just talking about that, Barb, in terms of going within, and, if you've got the friends or the support there that hold the space for you to work it out, the number one place is a really good place to start, is to become the person that you want.
Yeah.
As in, it's, a lot of the time we focus on not a lot of the time we focus, but this was the big thing for me in my life, was when I felt so judged, so heavily judged because of the choices that I was making, I recognized just how much I'd been judgmental in my life. Like, if we really are wanting that safe, non-judgmental, loving, supportive place, are we curating and creating that for others in our life?
Because the real message in that, Andrea, is if you aren't creating it for others, you surely aren't creating it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so stick with people that'll allow you to change your mind, who don't hold you to what you said in a negative, like, well, you said, like that kind of a thing. Of course we ask people to support us and things like that. But when somebody comes at you with the snarkiness that we feel sometimes, of like, I can't tell them what's really going on, that breaks my heart. Like, I want to be able to be me, and I want other people to be able to be them.
Yeah. And wouldn't that be just a wild ride?
Oh, I think it'd be perfect. I think it'd solve so many problems, because if we were really who we are and what we're here to be, and out of that comes what we're here to do, it'd be like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And instead, we're afraid to show up as who we really are. And we're afraid to let other people be who they really are. And it causes this division, and it causes isolation. And
so what if we get it wrong, Barb? What if we get it wrong? Like how much of that is in there, not being who we're meant to be because we might get it wrong. And if we get it wrong, it comes back to what you were saying before.
Oh,
Maybe I'm
yes.
not enough.
That's what it always is.
Yeah.
It's not safe to be me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Awesome. All righty. Well, we'll wrap this one up as well, and we will join everyone again next Friday. Oh, well, Thursday and Friday. And yeah, maybe just to have some people going away and percolating and pondering that for them in terms of, yeah, just go within. Whatever's out there, bring it in. How does it feel?
Yeah.
Just,
Kelly, thank you for sharing your story too. Appreciate that. So
awesome. So thank you for everybody that tuned in, and we'll catch you again next Friday, Thursday.
all right. Yes,
No.
that's right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.